Hey everybody, welcome to episode 158 of Tactical Crouch. Kickedtripod here with Yiska and Volamel, talking about the things and the stuff during the time. So, sup? Hey guys, big thanks to everybody who's hanging out today, joining us on YouTube. youtube.com/tacticalcrouch is where you can find the live shows on Wednesdays. And other than that, I think we're gonna get started right away. And to do that, big thank you to our patron producers: Refine Bean, Fredino Pin, Battlecrab, Lotion, Rex Zane, Audio Compass, Kasha67, Sharp Picasso, Nathan Misery, Hunter Tane, Fable Steven, Roger B.O., and Chris R34444. Or Bjorn, I listen to this podcast while still in the toilet and in the shower thinking of Yiska, Peace Camper, Anxiety, Pokemon, Sir Girthalot, Bronzebot, Boohow, Evan, and Alex S. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you like the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch, and you can sign up there. Otherwise, you can also become a member at our brand new, well, not a brand new YouTube channel, but we set up memberships this past week. So since you can no longer really, I mean, you can still sub to twitch.tv/Kickedtripod. And I basically know who the viewers are there who are supporting the show, because it's most of them. So that still goes into the same bank. So you can still go there. You're like, John, I have a Twitch Prime sub, and I still want to support the show, but I don't get the free YouTube sub or whatever. You can still do that. Put it in the notes if you want to make sure. That'd be like for TCP, and that way we make sure it goes into the right bucket. Otherwise, though, you can support right here at youtube.com/Kickedtripod. We've got $2, $5, and $10 memberships, whatever that means. So for as little as $2 a month, you too can adopt a Yiska beard.
That's how it is. You know what actually happened today? I gave up, guys. It's over.
You lost?
I lost. I'm not going to fight the gray anymore. It's just coming. It's time. It's time to stop.
Why? Life. You're not gonna win.
Yeah, I'm not anymore.
Well, you were fighting it before?
Yeah, I had 5 in my face, but now it's like
the fact that you know how many you have.
Yeah, I don't know how many.
I can tell you this right now. A little bit of gray is hot.
Really?
It's very attractive, and any person with class will tell you that.
Ladies, hello.
I'm going to be one of those guys though that will have a gray beard but no gray hair. I have literally one gray hair.
Probably hotter. I can verify with Katie, but probably more attractive. Yeah.
Please ask your wife what is attractive about me.
I mean, she obviously knows because.
True.
Right.
Yep.
Anyways, yeah, it'd be great. You'd be like.
I mean, you must be doing something right. You're the only one with a wife, so.
True.
I mean, facts are facts.
And she's a keeper. She is. I think we're gonna do a podcast together in the next year. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, are you gonna do? I mean, I shouldn't spoil the thesis, but
yeah.
Is it the thing?
One of our ideas is John and Katie ruin everything.
Yeah.
Where we literally just take because we have this serial problem that. They're outside of a few things. We seek to understand a wide variety of topics at a very kind of
surface level,
more than surface level. So more than just oh yeah, I've heard of Robert Downey Jr., but at the same time, not to the level of Dream, where he's he can tell you the color of the pocket square that he wore in this movie,
right? Yeah.
At this timestamp, it's we're kind of and think of that, put that in the scope of Marvel lore or Star Wars lore. So you have two people who know just enough to talk about it, but not enough to actually be, any sort of authority in it. Basically what I do for this show. And we want to do a podcast about that. Just choose a new topic every week. It might be
hell yeah.
Yeah, be fun. It's definitely designed to be more of like a funny show than like come learn about science. That's not gonna
I mean,
happen.
you still can kind of like learn like different interesting topics with like your surrogate mom and dad, and then by the end of the year, you know, you can have like a nice little recap. Like, look at all the things we learned. Isn't that cool? And we had fun doing it.
Yeah, it's gonna.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. And then I think there might be I might do like a little personal content creator show as well. That
Nice.
we're kicking off the brand stuff. So,
Hell
anyways, what did we talk about for like 30 minutes last week at the front of the show? That probably pissed a lot of people off.
I don't know.
Was it WoW?
It was WoW.
Was it?
Yeah.
It
I
was.
got screwed on my vault again so badly.
I've
It's
had
actually
2 good vaults in a
incredible.
row, and I didn't run any Mythic Plus this week. Just raid gear, just 216 and 220 raid gear.
Oh, I wish.
And I got big, like, you know, like when you have a I was always going to say the German word for when you got a tune or like a second character.
What's
How
the
would you say
German
that?
word for tune? Alt.
I'm not sure if I can say that on broadcast.
Oh, is it what I think it is?
Yeah, dude, is that kosher? I'm not sure how bad that word is.
I don't think it's bad. I mean, you
So-
can. I think it's probably fine to just censor it, just like
Okay,
not say it. But I'm pretty sure it's
right.
Oh,
Right.
I want to know.
Should I type it in chat?
No,
and
you
you tell
should
me
just
if I
say
can
it.
say that.
I'll
You just
type it.
say
I'll
it.
type it. You can.
No.
Here we go. Here we go. Fuck shit balls. All right, now we're good.
That's the word.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Is it
It's
fine,
pretty sure,
John?
at least.
You're
The name for alternative tools and tunes in German is fuck.
No.
what?
So I don't know why, but in German, an alt is called a twink,
Oh, okay, yeah.
which obviously has other connotations depending, on other things.
Got it.
Nuki
Thank
says
you.
it too.
Yeah,
Like,
thank you.
it's
Well,
just normal in German.
so it used to be in English, that word used to mean that you used to be able to stop your character at a breakpoint. So level 19, 29, 39, 59, and then you would get your best gear that you possibly could, and you'd go in like PvP or do whatever else. You'd like stop the character leveling. That was also the word. So, anyways, not monetizing this episode. And it's not Yiska's fault. He was super in tune to it. I wanted to know.
Yeah. No, but so when you have one
Yeah.
and you just leveled it to 60 or a while ago, and then 3 vaults in a row, the one epic gear that you have is exactly the slot where you get the vault stuff on. I got back to back necklaces.
Impressive.
I love it. I love it. It's just so bad.
It's great for transmog too.
It's true.
Yes.
Collect all those necklace appearances.
Very good.
Got to do it. Well, that's all the WoW we're going to talk about this week, except that we're 5 out of 10 heroic. And by the way, just so that I remember these, I want to see where these come in, but I do want to thank Grow Roots and Pork Chop Sammy coming in for crouchers. Pork Chop Sammy coming in as a significant croucher at the $10 the $10 price point.
Did you put that in, or is that
I put that in there. I didn't know what to like. What
That's
do we name the
hilarious.
$10 one? What do we call it? A significant
banger.
croucher.
That's hilarious?
I have my moments. Does it show up in viewer activity yet, or no? It does not. Oh, but it does.
Chat.
It does.
Look at all our members.
It does show up in my Streamlabs.
Oh, you guys
so
have
we're
like a
good.
time bar. That's kind of lame.
You
You're supposed to stay up there?
You want to hear another like ridiculous story that I can't believe I agreed to? So
Yeah, you probably have a lot of them.
as soon as as we are able again, and as soon as they are allowed again, my group of friends wants to do an obstacle race again. And just in my I of course directly said yes. And in my curiosity, I went like, let's see how fast you are. It took me an hour to run 6 kilometers, dude. 6 kilometers is 6 kilometers in miles. 3.7 miles. Almost an hour, 55 minutes.
Wow.
I'm so screwed. Like, it's going to be 12 kilometers, but obstacle runs. And if you don't manage to do an obstacle, you got to do 15 burpees as well. It's going to be hell.
Burpees.
You're gonna vomit.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd start like training now because you've got a ways to go.
Yeah. But the thing is, now it's self-preservation, you know? Now I feel like I have to do it unless I want to drown in one of the obstacles. Like, I have to show up there to do it.
Have you ever done a man maker?
What's that?
So a man maker is like a modified burpee where you have 2 dumbbells, usually heavier, like 35 or 50 pounds. And so you go down to do like your normal burpee and push up, but you do a row on the left side, a row on the right side. With that, do the push up, get yourself back up like the burpee, and then press the dumbbells overhead.
Yeah.
Man makers.
I would fracture my skull after the first one, falling unconscious and getting the dumbbell on my head.
I grab a couple like 2.5 pounders.
I remember like we did one in 2015, and we jumped off like a plateau. It was like 5 meters tall, I would say, and into like water, and it was like some. It's hard to say. Like, it's just some hole in the ground, pretty much, and they filled it up with water. And the guy that jumped in front of us just went like, "Oh," very believably too. "Oh, but I thought it would be colder." And we were like, "Oh, it's not that cold then." I hit the water, dude, and I vividly remember looking up, eyes open, like maybe two meters under the surface, going, "You will fall unconscious. You remember that there's a diver there to pick you up. So you're just going to do it, make it easy for him. He's going to catch you, but you're definitely passing out." And then I got out, and that's like top 5 euphoria moments by myself. I got out. Euphoria moments. After I got out, I felt like I could run like incredibly. Like the adrenaline and endorphin shot I got there is unreal. Like, and then I had to carry a friend who's like, how much pounds would that be? Chat, how many pounds is 110 kilograms? Someone do the conversion. And I had to carry him over
like 230 pounds.
230 pounds
like 2.2?
Yeah, like right about. So 230 pounds, round about 240 over like a 400 meter distance. And after that, my euphoria was completely gone again. Like, that was a complete rebound. But yeah, it gave me a lot. So I recommend them as well. They're like fun things to work towards.
Cool. All right, should we talk about Overwatch?
Let's go.
Let's talk about Overwatch. The big thing is that we do have the official Overwatch League 2021 format, which was accompanied by some pretty exclusive content with Herr Yiska over here. And is that what it is, Mr. Yiska?
Herr. Very good.
I remember that from
Very
Indiana
nice.
Jones. Anyways, that was great piece of content, by the way. You should definitely go check it out. Is it on your YouTube or is it on GG Recon's?
We actually didn't do a YouTube video, but we did it.
Do the video. I saw the screenshot.
Yeah. We did a video of the summary of the things, and then they put out a video themselves. But yeah, I got to ask a couple of questions. I think there was also some additional value in there. So check that out on GG Recon in terms of the reasoning and the type of stuff they're looking at. I also asked about second order operational stuff, such as what about hero pools? What about rewards for tournaments? And the answer was basically that they don't know yet. So, which is, of course, like you got to adapt it towards the schedule that you have in the system, and that needs to be set up first, right? So,
Right.
All in all, like the changes, I think overall really positive. I wrote an article about one particular change that I think is transformative towards how the season is currently being handled, and yeah, I feel like I'm a big fan of what they're doing at the moment.
Well, let's talk through these changes in together on this show, and we'll kind of see if we disagree. So we will be broken up into two groups based on their location, East and West. The East group is the typical suspects: Chengdu, Guangzhou, Hangzhou, Shanghai, and Seoul, but has been added with the LA Valiant, which I think is probably one of the most surprising ones, the Philadelphia Fusion, and the New York Excelsior. On the flip side, the West side is, I think, exactly as you would expect it to be, but just emphasis: London Spitfire very much in the West now, and the Vancouver Titans very much in the West as well. Two teams that historically have kind of flirted with those division lines, I guess. I think if I'm looking at that right, there's no other surprises here. So 8 on one side, 12 on the other. We kind of expected things to be a little lopsided. They're lopsided again. And that I think is okay. So that's broken up there. Any comments on the groups at all?
Not really, other than obviously the weird surprise of Valiant being in Asia, but
yeah. No, like I think it's overall positive that we have symmetric groups once again. I think it was always a little awkward, the things we had to do in order to get proper brackets.
Do you think it has anything to do with
even? Yeah.
Do you think it has anything to do with the new Valiant ownership?
I mean, okay, so the ownership thing, I don't think that's at all cleared. I'm actually myself not sure what's going on there. But it's with the new location of it, right? And devoid of all other emotions I might have around that topic, I think if people cut their heart out and look at the business decision, then I think the spot in terms of like going to China and trying to build a brand there is probably going to be the more lucrative in the long term. Like LA is already saturated with another team as well. The Asian broadcast numbers are overall very respectable, and there's still an audience there that can be captured through like mainland China is large, if you don't know. So there's a lot of locations to cover. So I think from that perspective, it just makes sense towards the financial success of the league. Of course, everything that comes with that baggage is just not that good.
Not good at all. Not good at all. But
sorry, I had to fix the stream a little bit. Yeah. It's yeah, what else do we have here then? Let's talk about Hawaii. So in the post, it says we're exploring a few different options to facilitate this global competition. Well, actually, we should probably talk about the format first, right? The format is very similar to the second half of last year, where you have two seeding. Both divisions are simultaneously seeding, and then tournament, and then there's a bye, and then another seeding tournament bye. We're gonna have 4 of those before we get into a grand bracket final season conclusion type thing. The tournament seeding, as I understand it, is based on the different groups, so the East group and the West group. But the tournament itself is going to be interdivisional, correct?
Yes. And that's a surprise, a curveball that I actually, throughout the conceptions of how they wanted to do that season, I've not seen frequently brought up in discussion. So this also came a little bit out of left field for me. Logistically, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, if you want to have international tournaments, which you might want to, because you look at the data that was derived from the last season. So I think if the Western audience average was, I believe, 45K according to East charts, I think some of the May Melees, the tournaments had between 20% and then I think the peak was like 62K average over the weekend. So that's significantly higher already than the regular season. But the biggest thing, of course, a lot of the share there is the excitement of the playoffs, but the international competition, where the playoffs were at 92K average on YouTube. So I think a lot of it is the overlapping nature of the competition. I think it is exciting to have like a separation and then see them come together with their meta interpretations and see who actually got it right. I would have loved to see way more confrontations of the Sombra Tracer divergence that we saw between the regions and who got it right in that case. And if you want to do that, if you have located that international tournaments are the best thing, then you got to find solutions in a COVID world where travel is not that feasible. And the argument is you don't need an additional visa for, as a North American team for Hawaii. The ping is within the 90 ms range, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on who you're playing against, or no, like depending on how it goes that day, I suppose. And then it connects to the Tokyo server, and from Tokyo it then disseminates into the different connections wherever you would want to play the teams. So in that regard, I think it's quite exciting to be able to do that. Of course, there are large questions about this. Like, what do the European teams do? I don't know.
LOL, European tournaments or European teams and tournaments. Yeah. LOL. Good joke.
I mean, it's nobody's fault really, because again, it's a logistical nightmare to try and figure this stuff out. And it just feels like they're getting shafted again. It's just unfortunate because they've already kind of planted their feet at home. You can't then just ask them to pick up ground and move to NA again. Is that even necessarily safe with the current landscape of things? It's just bizarre, kind of a weird world, which also sucks because, at least one of the big narratives that was kind of interesting coming into the season was looking at these teams who are going, I guess let's not mince words. They're building within their means, to put it nicely. And what could they do with that? What really can be done when looking at a system? So
the term is Moneyball.
I'm sure
they're moneyballing it.
Maybe.
Who is moneyballing it? Sorry.
I don't know. I just he made a funny comment about, like, to put it nicely, they're
going budget
conscious or whatever. It's like, no, we call that playing Moneyball.
Oh, right.
Still at least one way to spin it, I suppose.
That's one of the things that I really love that it went away somehow.
Everybody's Moneyball.
Not as long as I'm here. They will always be present.
It'd be nice if a team genuinely tried that, though. It'd be kind of fun.
I think to a large degree, like, aspects of Moneyball were in the creation of last year's Valiant, in terms of, like, they had I think 1,150 or so applications. Like they are madmen, and they actually read all of the applications in terms of the answers to the questions. But sifting through the data, eventually, once Gunba came in, was done by their data analysis.
Okay. So
and
there was
the
some
endeavor of that, dude. Like the logistical effort in order to get that stuff done is likely unprecedented in esports, because you had to have one person recording every single player and logistically handle all the data to be sent to one location in order for the tool to do its work. So every time, every scrim, and I believe Packen told me 4 scrims were running at the same time, they had to have 12 recordings. Now that's 48 recordings happening at the same time, having to be somehow managed. Just imagine the data masses that you required and stuff.
Yeah,
so, yeah, like I think that truly deserves the wording of Moneyball, and then whatever Barai did in terms of sifting through like large parts of
at least in season 1
as well.
Or not season 1, but the season 1 of the Defiant.
Yeah.
If that had anything to do with stats, or if that was just his eye test. But yeah, hopefully we can see that again, because I think maybe you could after the season with the IBM deal. I'm interested to see what happens with that, but we'll get to that, I suppose.
Yeah, I think other than that, we've been working closely with YouTube on several initiatives. Viewership rewards program, improve the discoverability of live Overwatch content, new improved virtual sets, redesigned graphics package, and changes to the show format, digital fan experiences, spoiler-free modes on OverwatchLeague.com, integrations with their new partner IBM, and we've got some off-season events coming up as well, which one of them is the Kanazaka Community Tournament. We also have the Nexus Cup coming up as well. So a lot going on. I mean, we have like 3 months still until the Overwatch League actually starts, which means that we're probably getting pretty close to power rankings.
It's true. Need to start cracking mine out. I was thinking about that this morning. I'm like, oh boy, it's getting close. Need to start putting pen to paper.
But yeah, so lots going on here. Overall, though, I mean, the 2021 Overwatch League season, I think the biggest surprises are inter-regional tournaments that that aren't on LAN, that are going via Hawaii. That was a big surprise. I think some of the teams, specifically going to the eastern region, are a little bit surprising, right? LA Valiant being a big one. I think Fusion and NYXL less so, for sure. That's kind of it. I mean, we don't, like Yiska said, we don't know about hero pools yet. We don't know about some of those more like specific format decisions, but sounds like those.
So here's one that might polarize or split the room, let's say. The 16 regular season games is either a good or a bad thing, I guess, depending on who you ask. Obviously, speaking to coaches in the past, Yiska's obviously brought up the point that, less games means more impact, but more time to prepare, which, has some pros and cons. More games means more stress, less time to practice, less impact in terms of each individual game. Depends on who you ask on what they prefer. But the fans in general feel like they're the most split. Is less games better? Depends on, how it's handled, I suppose. first, before I kind of like get on my soapbox, how do you guys feel? Yiska, how do you feel about 16 games in the regular season? Is this a good thing, bad thing, or are you indifferent?
Sorry. So I feel like, first off, the idea that we're playing a full-on league is probably slowly fading. Because much more than a league, I feel like we're playing a tournament circuit now. And depending on how tournament wins are going to be rewarded, more and more importance is going towards the tournaments. I think 16 regular season games, especially in contrast to the 40 that individual teams had in season 1, of course, we have to consider that we had to fill the same amount of airtime with less teams. So, of course, they would have to play no more. But an equivalent would probably be the 28 games that we had in season 2. And now down to 16 is a major change and will also mean something to us.
Is that just seeding games? That doesn't include the actual tournament games or
that's
playoffs?
just minimum.
Yes. But keep in mind, you have 4 qualification games per tournament. We have 4 tournaments, so 16.
And how many weeks is that over?
It's over 4 weeks, I'm pretty sure. Or 3. One of the 2.
Is it 3 weeks per seeding, 1 week for tournament, 1 week for buyers? It looks like here it's 2 weeks of seeding, 1 week of tournament, 1 week buy.
Oh, okay. Could be the case. And maybe each team has 2 games a week.
That's just according to the infographic on the thing where they have little notches. So we are still getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Looks like 13, 14 weeks of Overwatch League over 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 weeks of so we're getting 14 over 20 weeks. Just we're napkin mathing here a little bit. But yeah, so sorry, continue. You're kind of talking about some of the game numbers and math and stuff.
And then that's just the regular season matches. I will say I'm a fan because I think maybe the viewership fatigue was something that also arrived. I'm not sure if that viewership fatigue was as intense as it was in fans of just one team that would just watch that one team participate. Now, what will be a substantial part, which is sort of like the premise of the article I wrote, and because I didn't make that point, I'll roll it up like in a different way. How this very change, like this format change, and the fact that we're playing internationally, and the fact that not everyone qualifies, but only likely 8 teams, 3 from Asia, 5 from NA, changes your season structure strategy, or could significantly. Meaning, this is probably the most potent rule change in terms of the incentive structure created in order to facilitate a second wave of signings. Okay, why do I say that? So you have 16 regular season matches. Now, let's think, okay, if we assume 8 teams per tournament playoff, 5 NA, 3 Asia, then that probably comes down to a quarterfinal, a semifinal, and a final. So if you're the San Francisco Shock and you're dominating once again, you're having 3 games over that weekend on top of that, right? So keep count. These are 3 games a tournament. We have 4 tournaments, so that's 12 games in total, correct? Now add the season playoffs to it. Okay? So the season playoffs will very likely be more than 3 games. Probably 4 or 5, depending on if you have to go through the lower brackets, right? So now we had 16 or 17 games of just playoff play that you have to qualify for. Newsflash, not everyone will even get a single playoff game under their belt with a system if we assume that not every team qualifies.
Just say Toronto. Just say it.
So our resident number cruncher, Eric, helped me figure out on average how many teams that would be. So first, we looked at the numbers from last season. My mind was broken, dude. And I don't want to take too much away from the article. Okay, here's the deal. If you really enjoyed that fact, please click on the article. But you know which team would have made 0 playoffs last season if we had the same qualification outline?
The Valiant, I guess.
The Valiant would have been in a couple.
Okay.
Houston.
So Houston would have been in 0. I think in total there's 6 teams or 7 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll only give you the surprising one. Gladiators would have made 0 tournaments. Okay, that is still somehow believable, but definitely shapes the season differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dude, Seoul.
Yeah, they finished like 10-10, right? Or like 11-11.
Yeah. Like they were negative in their, they were below 0.5 without their bonus wins over the season. And they would have not made a single tournament had they not gone automatically invited. Keep in mind, that's the same Seoul that got into the Melee finals and got into the season playoff finals. Would have not happened had they not been invited to the season. Just frame that season in a completely different way. There's exactly one man standing on that team, and that's probably Profit. Everything else is blown up to pieces. If that doesn't happen, I think so. Anyway, because like that's an underperformance beyond.
Oh yeah.
Of course, you can say like I'm not saying like the Seoul wouldn't have reacted towards worse performances and not making blah blah blah.
Sure.
Things would have turned out differently. But just that fact completely blows my mind. So, okay. So now that our mind was blown from the last season and we've improved things a little bit in terms of like now requiring 4 games instead of the qualification that we had in a couple of these tournaments with only 3, which by the way also allowed Vancouver to lock into 1 based on an easy schedule. But dude, we ran the numbers using the ELO rankings that I sort of like try to come up with, also adding like a meta volatility factor, because it's totally possible that a bad team hits a good meta, then you have to set a threshold how much they improve, and if they would be able to strike up significantly and get into the top 5 or top 3 in their respective regions. And factoring all of this in, factoring the parity that we've talked about so extensively that is happening between teams, on average is still about 6 teams that will not see playoffs and not see tournaments. 6 teams. Almost a third of the league will not see play. And 3 teams on the extrapolation, like, okay, here's where my ELO ratings, you can definitely question that. But the Fusion, the Shock, and the Shanghai are likely the only ones making it every time. Now, the thing is with that, you can definitely question the Fusion. I think you can question the Fusion in terms of making it every single time next season, but I will say, if there is 3 teams, whatever, like it could also just be Spark or whatever, I don't know. But if there's 3 teams that will consistently make it every single time, and 6 teams that will make it 0 times, you will see these top 3 teams the exact amount, probably, approximately, as the bottom 6 teams. The top 3 teams will play the same amount of games as the bottom 6 teams. Because they are playing twice as many matches, right? Like, right around. Of course, not all of them will always get to the semifinals and always get to the finals and whatnot. They will have some, but like you understand like what the difference in this. Now, also factor in, it's not like the regular season matches are the more exciting ones. They are not. The tournaments are the more exciting ones, right? So you want to be in those tournaments because viewership is high and everything is higher. So depending on your current situation, because, and I think that this is also where I would like John's expertise on that, because you're decreasing your viewership time so significantly, based on being a bad team that you cannot afford to in some situations. And it might, for instance, let's take the Defiant. Let's say the Defiant are consistently the 6th best team in North America. They finish 6th every single time.
Choose a different one.
Right. But they could be consistently the 5th or the 4th or the 3rd best team in North America with one hire.
Houston Outlaws.
With one hire of, for instance, Libero and Rascal.
Okay.
Does that salary not pay for itself just by being able to have the outreach during those tournaments, the airtime, the here's the camera on my logo type of stuff in future negotiations in terms of like potential bonuses that there might be in sponsorship deals and whatnot? Is that not a realistic situation where like hitting a certain threshold where you expected value of getting into every single tournament, flying to Hawaii and doing potentially content there? We don't know if that's going to be exciting at all because global pandemic, hello. But that is more exciting or more money for your organization than like not recruiting that player?
In theory, yes. Right? Like that's the really easy, straightforward answer is that sponsors sponsor one of two things: local teams or winning teams, right? Local is kind of a factor here, but definitely not as big of one as I think the original plan for Overwatch League was. And that's a whole different conversation to talk about local sponsors and how much they're worth versus global sponsors like a Netgear or an HBO or Showtime, whatever it was. Those types of global sponsors. However, it does weigh the fact on how much that branding is worth on the physical games played itself versus the social media and content created around the franchise with those branding standards. And I honestly believe that the balance is not so much on the game side as it is on the content and social side. And because of that, I don't think that playing more games actually nets. I mean, it's good for sponsors overall, probably, but I don't think it nets as much as you would expect it would versus a team that's not playing for now 2 weeks and it's creating content during that time. And creating that shoulder content and that value for brands. Otherwise, as long as they're not doing what the Defiant are going to do and go 0-16 and not see anything, right? Like that's the drastic side of things. Is nobody wants to watch good content on bad teams for the most part. So there has to be something there. But I don't know. I don't think it may not be as big of a. It isn't necessarily just more screen time equals more dollars amount. More screen time during the league play is more dollar amounts.
Would you say that it correlates, but we just don't know how much, or just not much at all?
Depends on the viewership numbers, which is, I think, another thing here. Now, the new format is, I think, much more sponsorship friendly because you have less games with more. So each team is going to get more average screen time, which means that sponsors are going to get more average screen time. And so compared to the overall time of the season, if that makes sense. So that there is that if you're looking at it from a pure like sponsor level, you gain more screen time for your sponsorship. And you also likely gain more viewers in the sense that viewership fatigue should be less of a thing. The one factor we don't have is, will less games cause viewers to care less?
Or more?
My gut is that it'll make them care more. Because it's easier to watch and follow. And B, it's like way less daunting to catch up. So, yeah.
Quick follow up on that. Now, if you're a brand, obviously it depends on like how the deals are run. Is this a weird, because there's a lower amount of regular season games? Is this a weird position for brands and sponsors to kind of be put in, because now they either have to choose between the regular season, which is kind of, meh, nobody really watches it, or the tournaments, what everybody's watching? It is kind of a mini playoffs. Is that put them in a weird position at all because these regular season games are a little shorter? Do you kind of foresee sponsors that may have been on the fence kind of being pushed out, or are they, being forced to double down and invest more into these tournaments?
So I mean, technically there are no regular season games, right? There's
the
seeding tournaments, and so you're just talking about the seeding into the tournament matches, and not the actual tournament matches themselves and end of season playoffs.
Right.
I don't know if there's any restrictions on sponsor or any new types of sponsor for playoff weekends or tournament weekends versus seeding weekends.
Well, okay, let me rephrase the question then. Would you rather, if you had to choose, where would you want to put your kind of sponsorship money? Would you rather that on the tournament weekends, or would you rather that on just the regular season events?
I mean, the tournament weekends, absolutely. Right. Depending on the prices, right? Because it's not about the value that you get, or it's not about how much it's about the value that you get. And so if I get, let's say, 2/3 of the viewership on a seeding weekend versus a tournament weekend, but I only have to pay 30%, it actually might be better. Even though I'm getting less, I'm getting more for less.
Sure.
So it's not as like an overall straight output value of like what's going to net me the most Twitter followers sponsoring on this weekend or this weekend. It's going to be the one with the most viewership. Sure. But when you spend twice as much for that, it's not quite as like black and white.
100%. So you don't kind of foresee any kind of struggling that the Overwatch League front office might have in terms of selling, broadcast deals because of the season's shortness this time around?
Well, I think shortness is one thing. Like selling broadcast deals for the shortness, it's going to adjust the cost, right? Okay. And now if they're coming at you with 28 game numbers for 16 actual games played, then sure, they're like, hey, it's going to be $1 million when you do your internal auditing, and it should only be $550,000. Yeah, they're going to have a real problem. But assuming that there's not unrealistic expectations and selling going on, saying like the value of Overwatch League is the same or even higher than last year, they might be able to. There's so many unknowns, though, that could actually make sponsorship value worth more in a shorter format than a longer one. We talked about them. Viewership fatigue. How do people view the Overwatch League format, and do you want to be sponsoring that? People didn't like, on the whole, just regular season, no stakes type stuff. That's why we're not going to a regular season again with various stages or everything like that, because a big part, and I think pandemic plays into it, but I also think it's just the superior competitive model. So you can make the argument like, hey, less fluff, more direct competition is going to feed more viewership, is going to feed a higher cost. I think that the seeding games are going to be less impactful than the Overwatch League is currently planning for. I think they already planned them to be less impactful, but I can totally see this feeling like 2 weeks off of Overwatch League or 3 weeks off of Overwatch League and 1 week on. And you go back and you watch one or two of your favorite team matches or a really close good one on the VOD. Which isn't a bad thing, and it's probably more akin to regular sports, and that just kind of comes down to your viewership, your long-term viewership goal for the league, right? Do you want, and are you creating a league with the expectation that everybody is going to watch every game? If they are, this is still the wrong format. if the expectation is we want people to fall in love with the team or the teams, and we want people to enjoy the competition that we provide, and we want to be able to extend those formats out. We want to be able to make it consistent for, nearly 50% of the year. This is, I think, a much better format for that. But if the goal is just pure, viewership and hype, this still isn't the best format. I think.
I guess one thing that kind of ties both your points together, at least one of the through lines, was this idea of viewership fatigue. And obviously, I've been pretty outspoken about this, but is this the year that the Overwatch League has to ramp up its content creation and really get it right?
Nope. Overwatch 2 season, inaugural Overwatch 2 season is the year that they have to ramp up content and get it right. There's aspects of this season for me that I almost kind of feel like is a holdover season, and I feel really bad saying that. And I think it's a little bit skeptical.
It sucks that it is, but to a degree, it's also forgivable because we're still not like today. I read like a couple of I don't want to spread. Definitely educate yourself on that. But I read a couple of sources from national institutes in South Africa and New Zealand saying that the new mutations of COVID-19 have a property about them where it could be that the efficacy of our vaccines is significantly lower. Significantly meaning approximated 80%. And of course, like, once again, do your own research on that. So we don't know, like, we haven't beaten this thing yet, right? Like, we don't know when it's feasible to congregate in gigantic stadiums again and sit next to each other, right? We just don't. So I think therefore it needs to be flexible towards like and the expectations need to be adjusted to that reality. Hence Hawaii, which is a dope idea. And if they get to do more in Hawaii, then that's also nice. But generally speaking, because of the situation with Overwatch 2, and because of the situation with COVID, we're once again in a situation where 4th season's in. We will once again be in a holdover season where we still can't really do what the purpose of the league was in the first place, which is bringing esports locally. Right?
Sure. I think that the vision at least has to change, but I guess I'm a little surprised that the feeling about the content creation isn't a little bit more pointed. Yes, 100%. Like you can only do, or you're limited, let's say, on what kind of content you can create. And I agree that, if there was ever a season to get it right, it would be the Overwatch 2 season. But to kind of help bridge the gap, help stem the bleeding, would you both say that there needs to be a plan set in place so that when Overwatch 2 comes out, that we can kind of reap the seeds that we sow this season at all? Do you feel like there needs to be more of an investment here? Obviously, when the season to get it right is Overwatch 2. I think most people would agree with that, if strike while the iron is hot type of deal. But would you like to see them experiment with things, try different things, spend investment dollars into trying to figure out what's Overwatch 2 season looks like? Or what would you have them do this season?
I think yes, but I think Activision views this very different than Blizzard. And this is getting kind of really ethereal and very like, I don't know, like this is, I'm starting to make some assumptions and stuff. So like, no, like I don't have any insider information on this, but the way that I kind of see it, and I'm sure Yiska will correct me, is Activision might be looking at this and say, stop the bleeding as best you can until you come out with a thing. Sure. I think Blizzard, the people at Blizzard, the developers that we know and love, the people who are still there, I think that there's a little bit more of like let's take a risk. We're definitely doing, it's not like Overwatch League season 1 or Overwatch League 2 Season 1 isn't going to happen. It has to, right? It's not just going to be like, you know what, we're going to suspend the Overwatch League. At least I hope not. And so now is the time to like really put some stress on the infrastructure itself, what it can do, what we can do to develop that, and you know, a little bit more of like that risk-taking mentality. I think that the issue with that is much more on the monetary sponsorship, financial side than it is on the fan side. And unfortunately, I think that I don't necessarily believe that Activision is wholeheartedly in on the fan side of this equation in this specific scenario.
Yiska, any points?
Sorry, that like I'm currently being talked to in DMs. Can you repeat the question?
Any further points on in terms of content creation for the season? Is this the season they experiment? Do you think that they just
I think so.
give up?
I think this is also the season where they have opened the doors a little bit more for creatives to be part of it.
Okay.
I think it's no coincidence that we're seeing like these screenshot leaks in terms of you know, the TeamSpeak or whatever with like Sleepy and like I don't know, like just Overwatch content creators.
Sure.
Collaborating there. Avast, I think, was also on there, if I recall correctly. I think they're like in the interview with us, the Spectre said that they realize they have some really talented casters and talent that they want to utilize, and also have recognized that it's worth leaning a little bit more into the humorous content. It's also a type of humor that doesn't really probably cause any issues with sponsors or whatever. It's like not edgy. It's just a little weird and like fun loving, right? So that's probably prime sponsorship content in terms of like how you could sell that. So yeah, I think the guide angle is interesting, but it's certainly one thing that stuck with me that Spectre told us is they have realized that they have to adapt content towards the platform they're on, and to believe that you can just copy paste whatever you did on the other platform onto the YouTube platform and succeed was, in hindsight, probably erroneous. So now they're trying, like they're looking at the analytics of whatever with their partner YouTube, and trying to create the content that fans very apparently crave. So I think that's already off to a good start. Like we're getting the player personalities sort of explored by them explaining the game. I think that's just a double whammy in terms of like providing value, getting people into the esport because they want to improve in the game, who can teach you to improve more than anyone else, probably professionals in the scene. And then if you can promote their personalities as well, that's just like, if that does numbers, that's a net positive for everyone, right?
No, 100%. I think in general, you're starting to see that start to roll out. Obviously, like you said, getting a lot of like, oh, play this hero like Striker and play this hero like, you know, this person. Starting to roll out on YouTube quite a lot, which is fine. I think it's kind of not the minimum, but I don't know. I think this season in general, I'd like to see a little bit more experimentation in terms of what can set the Overwatch League apart. I don't think we can just continue to be the half-hearted, jokey faces on sticks. You know, hey, look, I dressed up today. I have a wig on. I don't know if that's it. I don't know if we can just be that and be considered a tier 1 esport. Well, what else can we do? I guess kind of not only rhetorical, but also kind of posing this to you two. What would you like them to do? Obviously, it's a hard question to ask, but is there anything that you like? Oh, I wish, you know, Overwatch would do this.
I like them to keep this thing alive by within ethical limits and bounds, without overstepping any moral lines. And while it's not my favorite framing of that type of content,
Okay.
it is one of the best ones, and one of the ones that I also enjoy. I personally, like, I didn't think I would have a good time watching bad teams play each other until I had like frequently watched and listened to Sideshow and Brandcast, who were one of the only ones who I didn't have in mute land over the season in terms of the casters. So I'd lie if I say I wasn't also a fan of that. So I don't know. Like I feel like while we're not getting my first draft pick in terms of like content framing strategies, A, it has to be workable, and B, it has to be within certain guidelines. And we're not leaning into any sort of drama, doing like, you know, like the TMZ type of stuff, or like opening up to the WWE or anything like this to an overt degree where it's not really about the competition as much as about the story. So as long as that is all a given and we're staying organic, I really don't care that much about the tone. If that helps the league to grow and stay alive until further notice of Overwatch 2 or any other developments, that's super nice.
John?
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough because I think that there's a fundamental game issue that really, that is why Overwatch and Overwatch League has remained a tier 2 esport. It's not that it hasn't had the right personalities. It's not that it hasn't had the right investment. Like all of that stuff has been completely satisfactory. And, you know, I remember the days, you know, where Overwatch League was one of the most popular streamed games. It was, you know, in the top 5 consistently.
Sure.
And for whatever reasons that we won't go into right now, that is not the Overwatch that we have today. And I don't know that there's any level of strategy and logistics that polishes a turd like that. And so I think that there is a fundamental game problem that if it's not addressed, all you're doing is optimizing a suboptimal product at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And no game's perfect. And I'm not pointing fingers. Like I don't have like a solution. It's not like, oh, buff Lucio, game's fixed. You know,
Right,
like there's just some things where, you know, the game concept itself just may not be quote unquote good enough to be a tier 1 esport. That's not necessarily the goal. And I don't believe that. I love Overwatch, and I think that conceptually I don't understand why this isn't the biggest game in the world for so many reasons. But it's there's I don't like it's really easy to sit down and like take it out on like content strategy or humor or production or whatever else. I think that something that I think John Spector realizes and is trying to do really well is not taking an idea of Overwatch League and trying to put it over the pieces that he already has. I think instead he's looking at the pieces he has. You have Brennan Sideshow. You have Uber. You have these phenomenal personalities in our space that nobody else has, and I think are completely unique and relatively unmatched. And they almost become the forefront product of Overwatch League, and they've done a lot of those things with Plat Chat, with the content that they create. And I think that is doing the best you can with what you have. And then now it's on the actual Overwatch League and Overwatch game teams to actually create a game that is, you know, sustainable as an esport. How do you make it exciting and fun and deep and rich? And, you know, we haven't seen that yet. To the full level that I think we want to, where how do we get it so that somebody like Yiska is entertained, enjoyed, and having a lot of fun, while somebody like Katie is also entertained enjoying it and having a lot of fun.
Okay, one specific question for you then, John. Obviously, we're going a little long here, but it's a very interesting kind of topic to kind of think about. With in terms of kind of creating monetization products for these two individuals, something for Katie that she can kind of not necessarily invest into, but can subscribe to and get the content that she's looking for, and somebody like Yiska to get the content he's looking for, like an NFL Red Zone, whatever you want to call it. Is that something that you could foresee Overwatch doing in the relatively near future?
I don't think it's about teaching the game.
Well, it's not teaching the game, but you're creating again, hypothetical products that you can buy into, whether it's the all access pass or more interviews with players, something like a casual package and an expert package or an in-depth package that you can kind of buy, not only helping the league with monetization, but giving these two, very different individuals in terms of what they want, what they're looking for. Is that something you could see, or is that cooked?
Paywalling content for casuals is bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like just kind of generally across the board, free to play is here to stay. It's a thing.
Dude.
I could totally see making Yiska pay more for something that he loves. That's
Sure.
called, exploiting a passionate audience. It happens all the time.
Fair.
Under pro guys, Overwatch League pro viewer. Oh my God, Yiska would pay for 12. But
yeah, we talked about it already, like this one episode, right, where we said we all have hundreds of dollars of subscription services piling up, and
No, that was just you.
I think John was like saying that you also have a couple of subscriptions, right? Running.
I mean, I have a lot of subscriptions. Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't have any esports subscription. Just give me some good stuff to invest in, and like, dude, like,
are those separate barrels for you? They're not separate barrels for me. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a subscription is a entertainment subscription is an entertainment subscription, whether it's in the esports barrel or the Netflix barrel. Or
what I'm saying is, how is there nothing bottled up to the point where I feel like I'm getting value? Probably there are products where you could do that. Everyone would just cry their eyes out if it was behind a paywall.
Esports has been indoctrinated so far that everything's free, that if the second you put a price tag on something.
I think Command Center was fine.
Yeah, I think it was fine.
I think they
something I definitely paid for,
I think they undercharged and underdelivered, which is really hard to do. There's
especially the first go around. I see.
Yeah, like there's
where was my maps?
Again, imagine getting all those overhead views or those player views now in VOD form.
Yep.
Like, come on, that's something that would be super valuable, not only to aspiring pro players, to content creators, everybody else. In fact, you know what? Don't even do that. Put it in the game. Let me go back into the Overwatch League game, take any view I want, and boom, done. Like that type of stuff is, I think, a really great way to monetize the league outside of the game itself. I just don't think that. Yeah, Yiska, do you watch baseball? You don't.
No, I don't.
Do you understand why a home run is exciting, though?
Yes.
And not that you're a special, like, for me, it's like soccer. It's like I get soccer. I understand it vaguely. I don't watch it, but I'm happy to. I understand and appreciate what a goal is.
Yep.
And the excitement of it, and I can kind of get around that.
Yeah.
The problem, I think, the fundamental gameplay problem I think Overwatch has is that there isn't the touchdown goal home run moment.
Yeah.
And the one that it is often misleading. It's, that 4K diva bomb, right? Or 6K diva bomb.
Yeah.
Or, a bunch of simultaneous Widowmaker headshots. They're very rare, few and far between. And the complexity and the fatigue between those moments is super high. And I think that that's one of the things that why, like, I think hockey is the most exciting sport in the world. I don't think that there's a single more exciting sport in the world than hockey. I think it's the best sport in the world. But there's a lot happening between goals.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on that people don't understand. And there's a lot of setting up and changing? Why are they dumping in? What are all these lines here for? There's a lot of that creates even though those goals are exciting, people will they'll kind of retreat back to like just watching, goal compilations on YouTube. And the problem with Overwatch is that those payoff moments are so low, especially for viewers, and I mean it across the spectrum. Those payoff moments are so low for viewers that why would I not just go to Action Esports the next day,
just watch the recap
and follow
or
up on that NYXL game, and only watch the full things, the full matches I love. I don't like basketball. I think basketball is dumb, but I'll watch the grand finals every year because it's exciting. It's a thing.
Yeah, I feel that. I also think that you just accurately describe why you would want the Overwatch League to switch to Lucio Ball, but well, not necessarily.
I think there's something to be said when you compare it to other esports, right? Like there isn't too many other esports that have as many game modes.
Yeah.
Right. Everything's just one game mode.
Yeah.
You have hostage. There's not hostage in Counter-Strike.
Doesn't Call of Duty do like
that I don't know.
They do, yeah.
Don't they do like the bomb plant one? Don't they have like I don't know if it's a CTF one, but they have a few different variations of it. I think at least 2 or 3.
Yeah. But people understand kills in that game, and they understand what it like because the mechanical aspect is so heavy.
Right.
It's easier to appreciate. I feel like, even though it's also not a perfect esports.
And it's repetitive between every single viewpoint. You don't go from a Zarya to a Mercy to a
Mercy to Winston to a
like and all of a sudden you have 28 different things to learn. That being said, League of Legends does that fine. There's still those payoff moments.
Yes.
And that one's kind of the weird one now. And I'm not a MOBA watcher at all. Like I understand the fundamentals of it. I try to watch Worlds when it's in the time zone kind of thing, just because I feel dumb around you guys. And but like the payoff moments are at least there. The excitement is there around a player kill. Or a big tower defend or whatever else, whatever other things are setting there. There's enough there that it has become wide enough appreciated. And it has those payoff moments, even though I don't know what every character does.
Sure, you don't need to. Just like how you don't need to know the pass
I'm like,
in
that
hockey,
splash
right?
kill him or heal him. Like I don't know. I don't know. It's just, I think that is Overwatch's really big deal, is those payoff moments are too few and far between, missed too often to no fault of the observers or the production team. And then we follow up on them too late.
That's what I didn't understand. I don't know if you guys caught up on the great coaching debates with, I think there were some good points made to elevator explanation was that, like the commentators and the observers, like the broadcast would be better if they had more advanced game knowledge, and that the coaches felt that Jake is by far and away the best caster because of his game knowledge. That said, I'm not sure if Jake is the best at creating, outside his casting ability. I don't know if sharing that information is the best way to create excitement. And I don't think you solve the problem that John pointed out of an inherent ability to create hype in those moments. I think, honestly, we're going to have to resort to outside of game hype management in order to explain to people why a moment was incredible. And
I look at the desk. I'm going to hijack this point. I look at the desk. I think they're completely under-resourced. I think that's exactly where you need to, focus the argument, and the anger is on this desk. I don't think it's at least half. I think everybody would be at least most agreeable that at least half the casters, that's not their job to teach people or explain what just happened, right? Sure, you can talk about the color and what they need to do, and sure, that could be better, 100%. I can't really argue that. But that feels so much more pointed towards the desk. And it feels just like another kind of holdover piece of content that hasn't really necessarily been thought out. And again, it's not, at least I believe it's not necessarily on the people who are on the desk. It's it doesn't feel like it's guided or has any kind of vision, which goes to John's point, which is an overall game problem. It stems from the ground up.
Yeah, but I think like, yes, that issue isn't fixed. I think that it is maybe on the disc to do that more. I don't know if there is much to improve in terms of observing. I think there's something to improve towards camera work, and I feel like there was also clearly keep in mind I'm recalling this, but if you want to know for sure, I know the quote was in our article about the changes with John Spector, is that they're going to incorporate more player cams when they can. And awesome. I think if the gameplay can't show you that just something incredible happened, then at least the faces of the player can. And someone should legitimately be monitoring these faces and capturing the emotions of these players in order to translate the excitement. Because I can tell you, and that's a point we discussed, I think like 1.5 years ago now. Nah, but was less. When was it? Like a year ago, where there was the Atlantic Showdown at the Tech TV studios, and we were there. And I distinctly remember during GOATS that Rhines would get fat shatters. The entire crowd would go nuts because it felt like an impactful play. Then a blue shoe would beat, which would save everyone completely shattered. And then the fight would continue. Now, it's a double debate. Why? Because they think the shatter is really impactful. It isn't. But of course, because you had to beat, down the line, that shatter was actually impactful, just in a delayed manner, because now the beat had to be used in order to circumvent that when you don't want to use beat necessarily in that situation. So it was a good moment. It was just delayed. It was not transparent that it was. Everyone will have forgotten by the time that the key moment comes around, that this shatter actually decided the fight. And everyone just feels constantly debated and like outside of the emotional impact of what the play signalizes. Because I feel like certain abilities in this game do actually gold score very well. And shatter is one of them. Yeah. Right? I think Bomb does it. I think mostly ultimates, I would say.
Most killing ultimates with the ability to kill a lot of people in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Very high level, like high, like immediately register, I think, on that level. Whereas like I think healing ultimates register the least.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you know, Lucio beat a Zenyatta ult, a Mercy. Well, I mean, there isn't even a huge Mercy ult anymore. You know, it used to be like the big, you know, 5-man res, right?
And even then, I feel like that was kind of like a goal scoring moment where if you got like a huge res, I think the crowd would, you know, reflect that very, very positively. And I don't think it's a bad thing that we have those very passive ultimates, because again, the hope is that the desk takes that and explains why during the halftime breakdown, during the post game, and explains why, oh, this was actually the key moment, you know, XYZ happened, you know.
I think that is too much delayed gratification. I think the time to get people to get there and understand and care before they've already moved on is too high. And it's a solution that I don't have. Like, I don't have a better solution outside of like pause time,
right?
Rewind, get the perfect angles, cut them in the perfect way, and change what the caster says, which you obviously can't really do.
Nope.
And so if you, and like I had a thought while you were talking about how it kind of reminds me of chess in a little way. Like, what's one of the most exciting things that happens in chess besides like taking a piece or checkmate? Check.
Like a queen. The check, or like losing a big piece.
Losing a big piece is a big one. And that honestly probably fits the metaphor even better. But losing the big piece when you don't understand, you know, you haven't played chess a lot, so you don't understand that this is actually an essential move, and that the person who just took the big piece is actually setting themselves up to lose, it's those types of things that, you know, you don't really get from chess, right? And or that you get happen in chess, and it's why it's really hard for like somebody casual like me. Over the past couple months, I've been playing chess with my sister-in-law a ton, and we've like watched videos on it, and we watch Twitch streams about it, because it's, you know, it's kind of an in thing. But when you're first watching chess, right, you don't fully understand the impact of moves, because there is very rarely instant gratification moves, and those instant gratification moves are often not what they seem. Like a Reinhardt shatter into a Lucio beat. It's, you know, a queen taking a rook, right? And that's 3 moves later, your queen's gone, but people don't see that in the moment. And people aren't able to relay the knowledge back to that happened because of this play earlier. And I don't have a solution for it.
So, and I mean, go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
Which is why I think like games like Rocket League or whatever are so like the exact opposite, right? Where it's like, it's a goal, it's an amazing block.
Very easy to understand. I don't need to know much.
I'm going to yell into my microphone now. Yeah.
Big paw. Yeah, that kind of thing. So with that kind of comparison to chess, do we then just have to deal with the bones that we're given with the, you know, this is our game, this is what it is? Do we try to change it? Do we try to fight against like the notion that everything has to be instant gratification? Or I hate the way that this is going to come across, but I kind of have to say it, you know, if chess is like this, you know, hyper tactical, like gentleman's game, like, is that what Overwatch is in this case, where it's just like, okay, this is what we have, this is what it is, let's just accept that and move on and create content to kind of bridge the gap as best we can, but we're not going to fix it. And we kind of have to be okay with that. Is that kind of where we're at?
Here's the problem. Every meta changes who the queen is. Right? Like every meta, we don't have really
this metaphor. I love it.
Like, I think in GOATs, if your Zarya died, it was pretty much over most of the time. I think Zarya had the highest first death into losing team fight ratio. And that probably would constitute what the queen is.
Yeah.
Every other meta has completely different heroes on completely different roles.
100%. But I guess my big problem with this, before we go too deep down, is that there are other games that find success, and for a number of different reasons, with that being a constant, where things change, roles change, you know, the queen in this instance changes. Why are we that much different?
Is there a successful tier 1 esport that has the complexity and game issues that Overwatch has and is still successful? The closest ones I can think of are MOBAs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, you know, to be fair, Overwatch has many times been compared to an FPS MOBA, right? And I don't think that that's necessarily a wrong generalization to make. You know, would Overwatch be more successful if it came first and MOBAs came out in 2016, and then, you know, we already have all this knowledge from Overwatch and we're all excited about it, and MOBAs don't really catch on and sit in tier 2? Like, I don't have an answer to that. Obviously, it's tough.
Yeah, I think a large part what MOBA has over us is the free-to-play nature. Therefore, the much higher amount of viewers or players that trickle then down to viewers. As the league, as the scene ages, more and more people become interested, that actually stick around, become interested in looking who the best players are in order to, you know, like throw 2,000, 3,000 hours at just playing away, even though I'm sure that happens as well. Like, our funnel is probably a little bit worse in than League, even though League definitely also is not great at converting active players into esports viewers. They just have so many. But our bottleneck is also I kind of lost my train of thought. So players to viewers, yes, that we don't have as many players. And that's locked behind the reason we are locked behind, or that's determined by the play wall we are under. It's also determined that it probably requires a better PC than most MOBAs do. And the growth rate, we will have to see if we can get that starting up again. I agree that, I don't know, like maybe I'm super Dunning-Krugered, but I often feel like, especially in Hero Pool weeks, I generally understood Worlds fights more than I did understand Overwatch fights. And that should make sense because there's I've watched way more Overwatch in my life than League of Legends.
Sure. And to be fair, anybody who didn't catch that, I think he's mentioning League of Legends Worlds team fights, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So if I watch it during Worlds, I watched all the got myself into the content again in order to appreciate it, learned what the new items are. Definitely also had a couple of 100 hours in the game 10 years ago or so. So I wasn't a stranger to it. But I don't know. I never feel confused to the point I felt initially confused, for instance, by how the win conditions unfold in the Roadhog comp until I literally sat down for 2 or 3 hours with a coach who could reliably, or several coaches actually, who could explain to me what the routing is, what the generally accepted win conditions are, and how that composition is played. Sure, you can sort of get it, but it's, I don't know, maybe it's the perspective as well, where it's in League it's more formulaic because you always have an AD carry to some degree. You always have a support to some degree. Our roles are fairly fixed in what they do.
You're also playing on the same map. I mean, granted, that changes every once in a while, but it's the same game mode, right?
And then I feel yes, we also have rollout now, but it's not necessarily that the power levels are on the same hero, even though there's definitely a lot of complexity in League and understanding who scales better and whatnot. So that knowing who's ahead in a specific game is not that clear cut. But they also have, and that's what I'm also excited for. Hopefully IBM can help us with that. Better statistics in order to show how a game is developing, and the pace allows for it as well. It will be vastly easier to.
I'm super skeptical on that.
Yeah,
I've seen how they've tried to apply it to sports, anyways.
Right.
This was a 12% probability chance. I was like, huh, okay, cool catch.
I think it's an edible
cool catch.
Yeah.
All you had to say was cool catch.
You can throw it out there for the fans, if they find it interesting. I'm very, to John's level of skepticism, I'm for a game that is so inconsistent, for a game that has so many different variables, I really wonder exactly how they're going to kind of break this down. If they can, kudos to them. Yeah. Great to have you. Happy to have the metrics, but I
think,
what do you do?
I think something too is the optimal, the player experience is playing with very limited information, essentially that they only can see what they can see in first person, right? And we usually take first person views in Overwatch League, except for setups, some team fights. The over the shoulder third person views are also almost just as unsatisfying, if not more so unsatisfying, because you can't really tell who's aiming where, what's hitting, what's not. Was that a headshot? Was that a body shot? So you just have two very imperfect views with even what's transpiring. One doesn't let you see the setup of the pieces on the board. Imagine only seeing a chessboard from the view of the queen, right? There's a lot that's wrong with that, but at the same time, now imagine that you have the view of the chessboard, but you can't and this happens to an extent, you can't tell what the player is thinking before they move the pieces. You aren't looking through the different lines that they're going through over their head. And I think that would be something that would make chess really cool. And obviously there's probably not a way to do that anytime soon. There's, and there's things that they can do to make it more fun. Derek in chat, mentions like fantasy Overwatch. That's a great way, especially to get people invested in games that they otherwise don't care about. I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. I watch every Minnesota Vikings game. I don't watch any other game. Wait, my starting quarterback plays for Dallas? Well, now I'm watching the Dallas game. Well, now I'm watching this game. So like fantasy, I think, is one of the greatest the greatest ideas as far as getting like fan engagement in there. But I think that's optimizing watch time. I don't know that that's necessarily building a fan base.
Sure.
And I don't necessarily know that is, solving any of Overwatch League's systemic issues and Overwatch's systemic issues. And I hope Overwatch 2 has some of those solutions. I just don't know how. Like, it's all this to say is like, we're talking about a game that we really love and that we've been talking about for 158 episodes on this show. I did 100 episodes of a different show prior to that, and then 100 episodes of a different show prior to that. So I'm over 350 episodes now that I've talked about Overwatch League or Overwatch League. Like, we obviously love Overwatch and we want it to succeed. But it's a really challenging time to like be not even be excited about it, but like there was so many times last season where I just didn't care.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's where I go back to that chess analogy where it's like, okay, we have inherent flaws, we have inherent problems. Chess is very not for the modern age, right? But it's okay. It doesn't matter because they've created if we're going to use your terminology for this, like an optimized product around what many concern or consider, a very boring game. And with chess, they found things that make people interested. It is interesting to see kind of like the things play out. They have optimized it. So are we at a point where we kind of need to optimize right now and hope that the game fixes itself in the future, or the devs find a way to, tinker it to make it work? I think that's kind of where I'm at. How do you guys feel about that? Like, do we kind of work? Do we need to kind of really go under the hood and make fundamental changes once again? Or do we just need to accept the way that it is and try to figure it out? As vague in general as that just came across.
I don't know if there's a singular right answer.
Sure, of course.
There's also there's definitely an aspect of like, those aren't mutually exclusive strategies. I don't know. I think that we're going to see. We don't work for the Overwatch League team. Happy to give any feedback where I can, but like, I don't know. There's a lot of information that needs to be said and done. I think that if there is one thing that I have seen in the past where games that shouldn't have succeeded have, it's less often the game that makes it successful and more often the players. And to a lesser extent, the casters and personalities around it. Like, look at what XQC did for chess. Like, like chess already kind of was getting a little niche following, but then boom, XQC played it, and now a lot of people are playing chess. Chess streamer is a thing now. And there's probably somebody's going to go like, oh, somebody was doing it before XQC and blah, blah. You should just, take it for it was, whatever. Like XQC did a lot of that. Look at Fortnite. I think Fortnite was a game that would have succeeded no matter what. But if you didn't have players like Ninja and Tim the Tatman and Courage JD early in on that, Tfue, you didn't have those people. What is that game then?
Yes.
Probably still a successful game. Now, the issue is who are our XQCs, our Tfues, our Ninjas? I think Sideshow and Bren. Uber to a lesser extent. Sinatra, oops.
XQC, oops.
Seagull, oops.
Sure, oops. And again, I think it's, we're going to get retirements. It happens. I think, to your point, it always comes back to this game being a little wonky, and we don't have enough to bridge that gap so that it's worth people investing their time in. So it's the game. I feel like the game's always going to have issues, but we're also not doing anything on top of those issues to kind of like, hey, we're throwing out these new heroes. Hey, we're doing all this content. Hey, you could be here, you could be there. You know,
and we're in a
obviously
doldrum. Like
yeah.
we're just in a game doldrum because Overwatch 2 comes out, so we're not getting balance patches. We're not getting new heroes. We're not really getting what we got a Japanese letter for lore. Cool.
Yep.
We're getting kind of rehashed events every couple months with, you know, a couple dozen new skins, and only, you know, 3 or 4 of them are originals, and the other ones are like recolors of the same skins.
That's why it feels like it needs to happen now. It needs to happen sooner rather than later. This content, you know, we need an injection now. Obviously, Overwatch 2 is coming, but I really wonder if there's going to be a fan base for it if we don't start today.
I don't think that there's. I'm on the opposite side. If I was going to make a guess, I would say that there is nothing that they can do right now to ruin an Overwatch 2 launch, short of extremes. Like,
sure, yeah.
But there's nothing that can be done. Players are going to come back no matter what. The question is, how good is that product there? The question is how do we keep people as engaged as possible to keep the revenue flowing between then and now? And yours is like, I want to see more experimentation and more whatever. I think for me, or not even for me, but I think that the strategy they're going with is just, you know, tie it up,
cut
stop
all
the
cost
bleeding,
until
put it in a tourniquet, like see you next year kind of thing. And both, I think,
hope you don't bleed out.
Both
Best
have both have their merits.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I just like, I don't think that they're able to right now keep the attention on the game for long enough. And that's
one quick quip towards you, John. Are you worried at all about a delay?
Of Overwatch 2 or I mean, it depends. Like, I feel like we're already in delay. But I assume that we're not seeing it in 2021, or if we are, it's like a November, December.
Yeah,
launch.
and quarter 4, or maybe even early 2022, right? Like something around there.
Yeah,
I would hope first half 2022, or not hope, but that's what I expect.
Yep.
Which is really weird because we got Overwatch 2 announced how long ago? And that part doesn't make sense to me a whole lot. Like, why?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think we've been in delay. I think that's why they haven't said anything.
I don't know how they turned around and built Overwatch 1 in a matter of 6 months, and then, you know, now they're taking 5.
The hope is that
4 years.
They're taking the feedback to heart and saying, look, we can't just be story mode. It needs to be something more. It needs to be a complete overhaul across the board. That's the hope. We'll have to see. Again, we have BlizzCon Online coming next month. Clear schedule. So I don't know. Maybe we'll do something around it. We'll talk later, but I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Kamirowski, that's when it was announced, but obviously it was worked on far longer than that before they had something to present at BlizzCon. So I get what you're saying. Just it's different. They've been working on it for I would say presumably 3 years then from now. If it was 1 year and 2 months ago, I would assume that they were probably working on it for close to, you know, a year and 10.
I'd have to look, but I'm pretty sure they're on record saying that they were definitely working on it beforehand, and that was the reason why things were being slow to begin with. But it's been forever.
Hero loadouts is something. Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what Overwatch 2 has in store. We got to get out of here, though. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out today. We definitely kind of went off the rails a little bit at the end. I hope you didn't mind. We're still in off season. We will have plenty of time to talk about these rosters and these players and these Overwatch League news things. Big thank you to our new YouTube members, Chris R3444, Quiznos, Grow Roots, Pork Chop, Sammy, who's a significant croucher, and Adam L. Thanks so much for supporting the show here on YouTube now. Appreciate you a ton. If you like the show and want to support it, a great way to do that is on YouTube. You can sign up and be a member for as little as $2 a month. Another great place to go is to go to Patreon, where you can be a patron and get the same perks as you do as a member. And a big thank you to our patron producers: Refine Bean, Ferdino Pin, Battlecrab Lulshin, Rex Zane, Audio Compass, Kasha67, Shara Picasso, Nathan Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Fabled Steven, Roger B. Owen, Chris R34444, Horbjorn. I listen to this podcast whilst on the toilet and in the shower thinking of Yiska, Peace Camper, Anxiety Pokemon, Sir Girthalot, Bronzebot, Boo How, Evan, and Alex S. Again, that's patreon.com/tactical crouch, youtube.com/tactical crouch. You can find me everywhere at Kickedtripod, Twitch and Twitter. And I'm doing more YouTube stuff. So I've actually got I wrote a script, and I'm going to be recording it over the weekend about streaming microphones. So I'm kind of excited about having.
I saw your little paragraph on Twitter. I was like, this not only is correct, but it's also strangely wise and could be applied to many different things.
My analogy.
Well done.
My RDJ analogies. So that's going to be fun. Pork Chop Sammy. Did I say you already? Yes. Okay. Sorry. I'm still getting used to seeing where all the subs and stuff come in. But thanks again for being a significant croucher. Yiska, shoutouts for the week. Where do people find you and all that stuff?
Check out my article on GG Recon about the thing, some of the things that we discussed. I make a couple of more points, what the implications are, and what the incentives are, in a possibly framed, like, more palatable way. Maybe even if you don't like rating, maybe you will like that. Check it out. Otherwise, I'm working on a piece. I think it's a topic that's been long overdue. I think we have a vacuum of things to trust in this scene. In terms of sources of information, in terms of the quality of character of the people that we are fans of, and the developer that signals certain things to us, but maybe we're also overinterpreting. And also certain people also definitely benefit off of not being called out on their stuff. Like I remember, like, based on the report that we did that the season was delayed, a lot of people going on Twitter and saying, oh yeah, this is the confirmation that Overwatch 2 is coming because the season is delayed, and sort of like cloud chasing that based on that. You think I'm going to have that story note out there if the implication was that clear? You think I'm so stupid that I would be wasting that fat content bunch, like, if the implication of the season being delayed actually meant Overwatch 2 is coming out?
Yes.
You cloud chasing, like, midgets. Like, it's unreal. Like, please.
At least I didn't use the T word.
Yeah, right.
Cool. What about you, Joe? What's going on?
The usual stuff. Rambling on the old GG Recon. You can follow that if you want. Probably start power rankings at least this season or this weekend. Start writing notes, and hopefully that'll be out sometime soon. Don't know where that's going, but we'll figure it out. Big shout out to the Overwatch League doing their, like, little VOD review with a pro. I think it could be a little bit more guided and cut down, but I think that's, again, seeds to be planted and cultivated for the future. And, you know, shout out to the School of Life. I've been quite enjoying their content. So if you're looking for some mentally stimulating philosophical stuff, check them out. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for us, chat. Thanks for hanging out again. I really appreciate you all. Thanks for everyone for supporting the show, supporting the transition to YouTube as well. So many of you have kind of tuned in to see us on YouTube. Had a ton of fun. Really enjoyed discussing and debating with you all in chat as well. Always a fun, good time. We respect your opinions. Have a great one. We will see you next week for another Tactical Crouch, and we'll probably be announcing our next game night because we need to do that. So talk to you guys soon. Bye.